What's up, everybody? Tuesday night, you know what that means. It's Flyers Talk A2D. Catch us live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Hit that like, hit those subscribes. Tonight, we are definitely talking a little Flyers offseason, little Elloitt Friedman bugaboo. Going to talk a little Joel Farabee. We're going to talk maybe some other guys on the roster that maybe we could see going. We've talked Cam Atkinson, maybe Aristo's on the way. Maybe Morgan Frost. We'll see what happens with those guys. We'll discuss that more. We're also going to discuss the playoffs. We're going to give you a little update on what the series are, games as we go. So hit that like, hit that subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications, guys. It's time to talk some puck. Let's go.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Flyers Talk A2D right here on HUDradio.com. I am Matt Sinsuti, along with the Darkwing, Brian Daly.
What's that?
The Broken One, Rob Povia.
Best time of the year, no matter who's in the playoffs, right?
Right. And Mr. Switzerland, Mr. Blue Shirt, Mr. Broadway, Big Bad, Brad Ryer.
Just biting your nails, watching the game.
Yep. And we welcome you to Flyers Talk A2D, brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. If you got any aches and pains that you would like to go away, then the Dr. Paul Vidal, is the man to go see. Make an appointment at www.specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Then head on over to Cherry Hill or Burlington, New Jersey, and you won't have any more of those aches and pains. They'll take care of it. And now, our poll question. Trading Joel Farabee will help take this roster to the next level. Agree or disagree? We're obviously going to do a playoff update, as you see on the ticker at the bottom there. But for the first part of the show, we are going to address the possibility or the rumor or theory of trading away Joel Farabee, whichever one you wish to use there, whatever analogy you'd like to use. Joel Farabee leaving the Flyers through a trade. Gentlemen, do you think it does take the roster to the next level? Do you think the return that you get for him is worth dishing him? Or do you think that this would be counterproductive to the Flyers? Who would like to start now?
I'll start because I'm going to keep this quick. It's idiotic if you trade Joel Farabee. I'm sorry. Like, I get a couple of the reasons why, but you're looking at a kid who's coming off a career year in goals and assists and points. This is a kid that, he's 24 years old. He's getting ready to hit his prime. You can see this year that he's starting to break out a little bit more. You put him on a good line. Like, I get it. Maybe he is low production, but this is a kid who's 24 years old. He's coming off major neck surgery. Had a rough year last year. Bounced back really good this year. May not have had as many points as we were hoping. But this kid continues to grow. He continues to get better. He's taken a huge step from last year. He got benched early in the year. Handled it like a freaking pro. Came back out and he had a good season this year. Was it great? Not by any means, but it was a good season for Joel Farabee. Yes. Do we want more? Yes, absolutely. We want more from Joel Farabee. We have a high expectation of this kid. But here's the thing too. The only way I see this move, or if you can justify this move, is wanting to free up some of that cap space and go after a legit goal scorer. That's the only thing that I can think of that could justify this move. But depending on who you bring in, I don't think there is justifying this, because you want this to be a real big rebuilding team, but you want to move some of the. I see Joel Farabee as a piece you build around. Granted, I don't see him as a first line player, but he's a very strong second line player. He's the type of guy you have to build around. He's 24. I'm going to Say this one more time. I've said it 4 times already. He's 24. You want to know why Philadelphia fans can't have anything good? Because they give up on everything so freaking fast. They don't have the patience to allow players to develop. And when they don't hit the expectations they think they're going to hit by 19 years old, not every player is going to be Wayne Gretzky. Not every player is going to be Connor McDavid. Not every player is going to be Connor Bedard. This is not going to happen. Joel Farabee is a good role player. He's going to be a strong second-line left winger for this team moving forward. Should you trade him? I think it's a mistake, and it makes this team move backwards 2 steps. It's the same thing with Claude Giroux. Granted, when Giroux left, it was definitely time for him to go. But you don't trade Joel Farabee. I don't think it helps the roster, and I think it's very counterproductive if you trade this kid right now.
So we had Mike coming in here. He did say agree. Farabee is a franchise piece you keep for the long haul rebuild. If he doesn't pan out later down the road, that's why we have a pipeline to pluck from. He also said the Risto contract hurts and to trade Lawton. Before everybody else jumps in, he did also say, but one big question, what if Torts gets tired of the rebuild and wants out of Philadelphia? How you handle it without things getting toxic?
He's all in.
I don't see that happening. Yeah, I think he's in for the rebuild. He's in to be a teacher right now. He's professor of hockey.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'll go. I'm going to say disagree. I don't think this will take the roster to the next level. I think you're hurting your roster if you do this. I think the problem, and I'm going to say this, I think the reason why we're so big on trading people away to get some big returns, whether it's draft capital or it's to get a player that makes us more competitive in the here and now. I think a lot of the problems is, and it just boils down to it, the Flyers fan base has suffered for so long that we have literally lost all sense of patience. We've lost all sense of time. We've lost all sense of development. We've lost everything when it comes to that because the Flyers haven't won anything in 40 some odd years. And if the Flyers had won a cup in 2010, if they had stolen the cup from the Chicago Blackhawks, if they had won the Stanley Cup in 1997 instead of getting swept by Detroit, I don't think we would be as impatient with these players. I think there'd be a little bit more patience because it wouldn't be as much time between there. I feel like there's a big chunk of the fan base that wants to hotshot everything back into contention because they feel like that, they're running out of time for the Flyers to win a cup. And I understand that it sucks to be in a long-suffering franchise. I get it. It's not fun. But the problem is that if you do that and you don't win the cup, and the Flyers know that because they didn't win the cup when they hot-shotted, you damage your team for decades. And we're just starting to finally get some of those returns from building it back up. So, no. You don't trade a young player away who's developing and is actually growing and is showing progress. That's a foolish idea. I think Hayes saying trade Lawton, that's not the worst avenue to go down. That's a player that you could. I'm not saying you should, but what I'm saying is you could go down that route, and it wouldn't set your team back 5 or 6 years in development because Lawton's been here a while. So you can kind of justify a trade that way. You can't really do it with a Joel Farabee who you drafted and you've been developing this for this long.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. I have a question for you boys. You familiar with that Eddie Murphy stand-up Delirious?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Because most Flyers fans, or Philadelphia fans for that matter, are much like his ex-girlfriend. What have you done for me lately, Eddie? What have you done for me lately? And you're right. I mean, it is an impatient fan base. But let's remember, guys, this isn't coming from the fan base. That's what's interesting about this. That this comes from Elloitt Friedman in the article that he writes, 32 Thoughts. I guess that's weekly, I believe, Brian?
I believe it's weekly, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm not sure how much traction this rumor actually has because Friedman kind of sneakily threw Farabee's name in there at the end of it as to just kind of cover his bases in case it does happen. So it's coming from a hockey insider. And, you know, we also heard Daddy B come out and say that the Flyers are open for business right now. So that means exploring every avenue. And you guys know how I feel about Joel Farabee. I mean, definitely, if not a son, a stepson, you know, and he's finally healthy. And we saw what he could do this year, right? Putting up career highs, to Brian's point, in goals, assists, and points, right? But this might be the time that if you're trying to rebuild this franchise and fill a lot of holes, you got to break some eggs in order to make an omelet. And Joel Farabee, let's face facts, as good as he's been, and like I said, his value is coming off a career high, you know, along with, you know, being in any team that would acquire him. You know, he's only in year 2 of a 6-year, $30 million contract. So they would have 4 years at a relatively cheap price for production for a young player. So there's a lot to covet there, right? You could really get a lot of multi-pieces to fortify the roster. And within these career highs, let's look at the second half of his season, specifically over the last 35 games. Farabee had a 14-game goalless drought with 5 assists, followed by scoring 1 goal in the final 14 games with 1 assist. So all total, that was 5 goals, 6 assists in the last 35 games. He can disappear at times. He might have been running out of gas like most of the team was. Sure, you know, first full season coming off injury. He looked good. He played all 82, so that's a good sign, proving his health, right? How can you not maybe explore this? So, boys, I know you're about to shit your pants. I'm agreeing. I think you trade Joel Farabee. It does bring the roster to the next level because you bring some more pieces in, a lot more pieces for a player that maybe you're selling high on, and you're also freeing up space to potentially bring up, as early as next season, a forward like Rizzo, Barkey, or eventually Mitchkov.
Yeah, but imagine
I
Farabee
know!
with those guys.
I know!
Imagine Farabee with those guys.
I do.
I get everything you're saying, and I get both sides of it. But you gotta have young pieces here. You know, there's other guys you can trade on this roster that I think have a little bit more value. Like I said, I think the biggest plus to trading a guy like Joel Farabee is freeing up that contract. Not that it's a terrible contract for a kid his age, but you know, I agree with Mike. You know, let's explore Lawton. Let's explore possible Risto. Maybe we go down Brad's route, buy out Cam Atkinson. You know, there's other routes that we can go. We can keep some of the talent here. And a lot of this is biased because I really like the game that Joel Farabee plays when he's 100% healthy. And we saw a lot of that this year. If he can prove to be a consistent 25 goal scorer, like he basically was this year, that's Flyers trade that away now, and he gets to that point. The Flyers fans are going to be pissed. I know I would be.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, you got to take a step. Like in a rebuild, you're going to take steps back to take steps forward. A large part. Hey, Brian, you know how I feel, man. A large part of this is playing devil's advocate, exploring the possibilities. Right? Do I see him being a part of it? Sure, he's a hardworking player, right? But if you got better talent there, then he's just a clogger. You know, he's a good player that could be blocking the spot of a great player.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. That's a very valid point. And you know, we could there could be, you know, Denver Barkley could be that guy. Mitchkov could be that guy, but I'd see Mitchkov playing first line right wing. And you know, maybe Max Rizzo is that next guy. But you know, Rizzo again, I would love to see a guy like Rizzo play with a guy like Farabee though. Like that's Denver Barkley with Joel Farabee, like that gets me excited. That gets me almost wanting to go 6 to midnight, half chub. Let's go. The future's bright. I need Farabee here. That's me though.
I mean, I will say this. The only way you could justify trading Farabee away is if you brought up, say, a Barkey, or you brought up a Bonk, or you brought up a Mitchkov, and they are just crushing it on their ELC. And it's to the point where you're just like, you know what? Farabee's contract's getting in the way. Then we got to make a move. That's the only way you can justify that to me. Be like, listen, love you, Farabee, but if you're blocking the way because of your contract, not because of your talent, because you never dropped off on your talent, and we know you don't want to take a pay cut, then we have to move on. Then that would be the decision. If the cap forces you to make a choice, then you make the choice. But if it doesn't, then you keep him. If you've got talented Joel Farabee and a talented Bonk, Mitchkov, or whatever, and you can afford them both, you keep them both at the end of the day. That's the only way you can justify it to me, is if the cap forces you to have to make a tough decision. Sometimes it does. You can't always keep all the players. Look at Tampa. They couldn't keep everybody from those teams. Now a lot of them are scattered here and there.
Man, Tampa's going to lose somebody else major in this offseason too.
Right.
I don't see Stammer re-signing. I just don't think they're going to have the cap space to do it. Especially bringing Dumba, who could potentially get re-signed. You brought in Duclair, who I think has maybe 1 year max left on his deal. Don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that. He could be a UFA at the end of the season too. I mean, I get it. Sometimes you got to, like Robbie said, I'm going to quote Pove here. Sometimes in order to make an omelet, you got to break a couple eggs.
I stole it.
By the way, Eileen said Raw is Mr. Murphy's best stand-up in her opinion.
You know, actually, that might have been from Raw and not Delirious. It was in the purple. I think that was Raw. Right?
Raw,
Delirious was the red jumpsuit. Yeah, it was Raw. Good call, Eileen.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see. Mike's saying the Philadelphia Flyers are the spaghetti western of the NHL, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah, we've had more of the bad and the ugly in recent memory, but we had some good this year, so there's definitely that. Anyway, what's going on, Tom? What's going on, Chucks? Hope everybody's doing well tonight.
This battle in Florida has been amazing tonight.
And Kevin saying, "What's up, fellas? Long time no talk. I agree. Let's see where other routes go." Pete saying, "Evening, gentlemen. Nothing like playoff hockey." Absolutely. I got Florida and Tampa on my telly right now. The amazing save made by Bobrovsky about 5 minutes ago.
By the way, guys, Panarin got even with that punk Oshie and almost took his head off before.
Good for him.
I didn't think, you know what? I never thought Panarin had it in him. He just clocked him at center ice when he had the puck. Oh, my God. I'm shocked.
Mike,
by the way, are you crazy to trade Joe Farabee?
I'm not.
Guys nuts. Guy's 24 years old. He finally breaks out, and now you want to trade him? I mean, come on, guys.
So who brought this up?
What do you think you're going to get for it? Listen, I'm all for it if you're going to get somebody that's really good that's going to improve the team. But no, not him. Not him. He's the wrong guy to move. You don't trade a 24-year-old player who finally breaks out and scores over 20 goals and has the capability of scoring between 25 and 30 goals a season. Plus, he's really hard to play against. And I'm telling you this because every time I see the Rangers play against the Flyers, Joe Farabee is a pain in the ass. And he scores goals, and he's tough. You know what? Come on. You guys got to keep him. He's at worst a top 9 player, okay? But he's definitely a top 6 player. You can move him into the top. You can move him to the top line every once in a while if you get injuries. Don't do that. Don't do that. There's guys that you should be buying out, okay? I know Brian and I disagree with that last week, but I'm still going to say it. There are guys on this team that if you want to make salary cap space, buy them out and use money to get good players. Do not give up good young players. Okay, Joel Farabee has not played his way off this team.
The last 35 games were pretty poor, though, Brad.
I understand that, but has he ever played 80 games?
No, that's a great point. I think he did run out. He ran out of juice.
Yeah, a lot of guys when they're playing their first full year in the league,
Right.
okay, after 55, 60 games, they hit the wall, and that's obviously what happened to this guy. Okay, you know what? In the off season, he'll get himself in better shape.
Right.
He'll listen to Tortorella and not end up being not getting tired and being a complete player. I think he's going to be a real good part of that team. You want to trade him to us? We'll take him.
So I bet Case was asking what would be worse, Pittsburgh or New York.
He was.
You want him? I'll take him. He can play with me. I'd rather have him than Roslovic.
Right.
I'll take him on my with Kreider and Mika anytime you want. Go ahead.
Meanwhile,
trade him to us. Wow.
Yeah. Meanwhile, friggin' the Battle of Florida right now is just absolutely crushing it right now between the chances and the saves. Nice. I mean, my Lord, that just barely stayed out. Sorelli's opportunity. Good Lord.
All I'm saying, Brad, is you can't fault if there is some inquiring about what you could get for the player, right? But I agree with you. It would be a highly unusual move because he seems to fit with what the Flyers are doing here in Philadelphia. And yes, he's coming on. He's shown the ability to score in the NHL, something that these young prospects who may be better haven't yet shown yet.
Yeah, I look, guys, and again, I don't want to belabor the point, but the guy's tough to play against. He can score.
Right.
Okay.
But would you fall for them to at least investigate?
Oh, you should be investigating trades on every single player you have at all times, because
that's all I'm saying.
That's the general manager's job.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. But unless you're trading him and you're going to bring in like Kirill Kaprizov or somebody like that. Okay.
Right.
I'd be willing to listen to that. But I mean,
right.
If you're talking about like just moving a guy because you're trying to get rid of money, no, that's just not him.
Yeah, and
but maybe plug in a couple holes with what you could bring back for him, though, because like you said, he has years of control. I think this rumors are all coming from because the deal he has in place, the 6-year, $30 million, does not have any trade clauses. So I think that's where it's really stemming from.
You could always trade.
Exactly, that's exactly where it's stemming from, because you got to look at some of these other guys that they're trying to move on from. We know Coots ain't going nowhere. He's got a full new movement clause. He's got all the control in the world in that. Cam Atkinson, I think, has a partial. But if you buy him out, that is what it is. I think Risto has a partial no movement. Maybe you can find a team if he pull. I think he's got to give him a list of 10 or 12 teams that he's willing to be traded to. So maybe you can move on from Risto. I agree, though. You can't necessarily. I don't want to trade a young guy when there's some veterans on here that can make an impact on a contending team.
Right.
I like Scott Lawton. Maybe Aristo can help solidify a team on the back end.
Right.
And I get the mindset. This is a rebuild. This is a rebuild.
Good fit in Colorado. Because they could use a defenseman who actually hits somebody.
Yeah.
Their defense, to me, is beyond. I mean, I know Makar is a great player, and I'm not saying he's not, but defensively, they're pathetic.
Oh my!
I mean, you have Makar, Manson. You had Byram, but you traded him at the deadline. That kind of hurts. I like Sam Girard's game. Obviously, I'm a fan of Josh Manson. He plays the physical game as well. I just don't know if there's a spot for him to play consistently in Colorado. You got Devin Taves too. That's your top 5.
Damn. Somebody commented that and about 5 other moves. Man, how can people be so negative coming off the season?
I know.
I mean, Jesus.
I don't know what you were expecting from them, honestly.
I know, man.
Were you expecting them to win the division? I mean, some of you guys were expecting them to win the division?
Right.
Stamkos.
There were some who were expecting to win the cup.
Stamkos is not going to sign Philly, guys.
But I do think that Danny Briere is, if this is even anything true that Elliot Friedman's putting out. Right now, as far as I'm concerned, it's all speculation because Elliot Friedman loves that. I mean, at least he's not as bad as Frank Cervelli. But anyway, he's doing.
Hey, you
if
got to
he's
get
doing his
clicks.
due
You got to get
diligence-
clicks. You know what I mean? I get
True.
it.
Yeah, I get it. Especially in the
Alright.
off season, it slows up, especially after the playoffs are done. But
So
you got to do your due diligence if you're a GM and say, hey, if we make this guy available, what are you going to give us in return? So I get it. Am I a fan of it? No, not by any stretch. I think Joel Farabee is going to have a massive season next year. And a lot of this is also stemming from, I'm surprised nobody's even brought this up. Apparently there's a little bit of friction between him and Tortorella.
Right.
Shocker.
Right.
Shocker. So that could be another thing too. If they can't work out the relationship, maybe it is going to be smarter to move them.
Right. I mean, that's a factor in there too, depending on, the long-term longevity of Torts here in Philadelphia. But I think that relationship could easily change as well. Supporting your guys' earlier argument in terms of why he should stay. Because look at who was in the doghouse for Tortorella for a bulk of this season, and that was Morgan Frost. He's out of the doghouse and up in the penthouse right now.
Yeah, had a great season. Responded very well to everything that Tortorella. I don't want to necessarily say put him through because I think that's a poor choice of words. But we've said this all year. Brad said this all year. He said this when we first hired Tortorella. If you're not gonna perform, you're not gonna produce. You're not gonna play. So you have to be able to respond. The good thing that I do like about this whole situation is seeing how guys handle it. This, like I said, this is a rebuild season, whether we want to agree with it or not. John Tortorella even said in his exit press conference, this team is still a long ways away. Think about that for a second. Think about that for once. He said this team is still a long ways away from where they want to be. They just missed the playoffs by, let's just say a game. We'll say 2 points. It was probably a little bit more than that. But that's saying a lot about where this team is, where he wants them to be. And the way he closed it out was perfect. He said he was so proud of these guys, where they've been and where they are now, how they've responded to adversity. That's a guy I personally would want to play for, whether I agree with his philosophies or not. Because this is a guy that, regardless of everything, whether we have friction or not, if you have my back, I'm going to have yours. So I liked how Farabee responded. I liked how Frost responded. I know those two were really close. So maybe they can help each other out, kind of take the next step for next season. And hopefully both of them have massive breakout seasons where we're talking hopefully 20 points more than where they are now. I think that would be – I don't think that's a tall ask.
There's no reason to not want that to happen. And there's no reason not to expect that to possibly happen. They're young players. They're going to get better. They haven't hit their prime yet.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Farabee. I always liked Farabee as a player. I mean, he's not a guy you should be looking to get rid of. Again, don't get me wrong, guys. If the right deal comes along, anybody could get traded. So
right.
But you prefer not. Avoid that.
Right.
Yeah, of course. Uh-oh.
So Swoopy is saying we keep hearing the Flyers say it's a rebuild, but then they try to make the playoffs and finish halfway through the rounds, picking in the middle of rounds. Sounds like they want mid-round guys, but don't want to build through the draft. They'd rather wait and sign vets or big-name free agents, 27 to 33, and 3-4 years from now. This team really doesn't know what they want as an organization. They say one thing, then go about it in a completely different way. Cutter probably wanted out for that reason. No, I think Cutter just didn't want to be here. He honestly just did not want to be a part of the Flyers organization. I don't think that was the reason.
I'm gonna ask this as nicely as I possibly can. What move did they make at the trade deadline that said that they were not rebuilding? Because every trade that they made at the deadline said, hey, we're still rebuilding despite the fact that we're competitive.
Right.
They have said it. They've made it clear as day, despite the fact that they are competing. Dana Briere said, we're rebuilding. Keith Jones has said, we are rebuilding. John Tortorella said, we are rebuilding. Where? Where have they said otherwise? Where have they done otherwise?
I think
The
Robbie
success that
has
they're
his-
having.
his-
No,
I'm
finish
gonna
your
let Rob-
point.
I was going to let Rob go in 1 second. The success that they're having is from the fact that they have a coach, they have a philosophy, and they have a front office that they are willing to buy into. This isn't like it was in the past. They're playing for this right here. They're playing for this right here. They're not. It's not selfish anymore. These guys are playing for each other. They're buying in on each other. That's where this success is coming from. Yes, they are a rebuilding team. Everybody in the upper management, including Dave Hilferty, has all said this team is rebuilding. They have not stemmed away from that. They have not made any moves or signed any players that have said otherwise. Go ahead, Robbie.
I got a question. I got a question for the teacher. Since when does it matter where you finish when you've compiled picks? Does that mean that's where you're going to be drafting? Or maybe can you package picks together and move up in a draft, right? Can you maybe wait for the following draft because this one upcoming is sort of mediocre and you're going to grab where you normally... I don't think rebuilding and losing has to go hand in hand. I don't think winning and failing at a rebuild, or I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive, right? Swoopy, I love you, man, but that was a horrible take. I
agree.
I mean, like, you want to build a winning culture here, so you want losing. I've never seen that work. Ask the Philadelphia 76ers. Still not working.
Still not working.
I mean, maybe the refs had something a little to do with that. Maybe Brad could tell me that. I don't know.
Listen, I think that's the biggest cop-out excuse ever. But the refs were an issue last night in that game, in that final couple minutes.
Was Tobias Harris an issue by missing that last foul shot?
Yeah.
That foul shot became irrelevant at that point. Nick Nurse called for two timeouts.
If he made that foul shot, they wouldn't have been down. Even if the Knicks got those 6 points, it would have been a tie game.
Well, the referees have even come out and said, "Hey, we missed those calls." They blatantly ignored Nick Nurse calling timeout twice. There's video evidence of that.
Hey, listen, referees screw up. It's not the first time. Aaron Boone got thrown out of a game yesterday, and he didn't do anything.
I saw that. I got a good chuckle out of that.
A fan was getting on Hunter Wendelstedt's case, and he threw Boone out.
I saw that. That was actually kind of funny.
So
no, I get your point. Like, I agree. Like, I think that blaming a referee is the biggest cop out of any sports debate ever. But you have to admit, that did not help the Sixers out at all last night.
I don't want to. Listen. All I'm saying is they had 3 chances to win that game last night. Okay, the first one was Tobias Harris missing a foul shot. That was problem number 1. Problem number 2 was Maxey going down the lane and then getting rejected by by Isaiah Hartenstein. Okay, that was problem number 2, and then problem number 3 was that they didn't hit the 3-pointer at the end of the game. So I mean, they had 3 chances yesterday. In spite of all the stupid stuff that happened to them, they had 3 chances to either tie or win the game, and they didn't do it. They failed on every occasion. So, okay, the referees definitely had something to do with it. And listen, tonight with the Ranger game, I mean, they should have. TJ Oshie should have been thrown out of the game when he slashed Panarin. Okay,
it wasn't that bad. I saw it.
Well, it's the playoffs.
It was a typical high stick. He went to lift a stick and he missed. It happens all the time. You can't. You're not going to throw a guy out for that.
Listen,
it wasn't aggressive.
The first hit was not. The first hit wasn't that aggressive. The second one, he got him. He definitely tried to get him. So listen, I can't necessarily agree with that.
Brad, you know,
but you also know that if this happened to the
Knicks, they're going to put the whistles in the pocket more often than not this time of the year.
Listen, I would rather the officials do put the whistles in the pocket and let these teams play. And to be honest with you, but be consistent.
Well, let me say something that we can all agree on. Be sure to like, comment, and share our show if you're enjoying what you're hearing tonight, and get notified for all the great shows here at A2D Radio.
Well played, my friend.
Rob, the segue master.
He is
I noticed the time.
I noticed it too. I was waiting for an opening.
Still,
Well done.
that was a
Well
nice
done.
snipe, though,
Well
on
done, right
top
here.
shelf, though. Give Robbie the credit. He got that snipe right there. All right, so to finish up, put a nice little pretty bow on this topic. John did ask, though, when is Mitchkov coming over? The 25-26 season, yes?
Probably 26, 27, 27, 28, something like that.
Well, he still has 2 years on his current deal with KHL. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. Now, the question is, though, is the IHF going to negate it? Because they did it with Fedotov.
Yeah.
So
You throw enough money at him. I think there was some money thrown. I'm telling you, I respect the Danny B administration more and more because there's envelopes involved. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, they get things done. The public don't know it's going down until it goes down. You know what I mean? I love it. Keeps shit tight to their vest. Anyway,
It really does. I mean, Drysdale's deal.
It's not
out of nowhere.
It's not illegal.
It's the Drysdale deal out of nowhere. Bringing both goalies over out of nowhere.
right?
I love it. Keep it going. But
Yeah,
what's actually really funny about that we bring up Mitchkov is there's another Flyers goalie within the pipeline that I think they just drafted last year. It was 2 years ago. I forget. But he's not playing in Sochi with Mitchkov. Just signed over there.
interesting.
So we could be getting both of those at the same time.
Interesting. We might have ourselves a little bit of a contest going on to see who wants the spot. Not a bad
Talent at all ages. Talent at all
Kid's good
ages.
too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, to finish up our talk on this with the nice, pretty bow, my stance on this is you don't trade Farabee. Let's take our time. You know, I definitely think that we're going in the right direction. We're seeing progress. You know, previous regimes didn't know what they wanted to do. They had no direction and they had no fortified plan. They were just chucking money at the situation, hoping it would solve itself. And in previous regimes, there was fighting going on over what direction we should go, whether we build around Giroux or we just try to hotshot our way back into the playoffs. And there was that constant tug and pull for a good decade and a half. And that caused a lot of damage. Now we have a regime that's got a direction. They've got an idea of what they want to do, and they're going with it. And they're all united together. And that's the important thing here, is let's stay with it. Let's stick with the program. They have a direction. Let's see it through. Because at this point, doing everything else has not worked. Chucking money has not worked. And we've all watched that. We've burned more money, maybe more money than most of the top tier teams in this league. Now, I really do mean that. I think even we might have burned more money than the Rangers. And that's saying something, because the Rangers had burned some money in the past. You should know, Brad.
Bobby Holik for $9 million a year.
Yeah.
We've forgotten that one, a fourth line player.
Back when there was no salary cap and you
Right.
could have such luxuries.
That was stupidity with a capital S.
Boy, I'm sure Bobby Holik was more than happy to sign that contract.
Yeah, I mean, if I were him, I would have been running across that bridge. I would have crawled across the bridge to sign a contract like that.
All right. So, gentlemen, we move on to our playoff updates as we get closer to the halfway point here on the show. John says, I have an 800 number for the Kremlin. I'll give Vladimir a call.
Oh, wow.
1-800-FREE Mitchkov.
Yeah. Oh, man. And Mike saying that was stupidity with a capital S. Brad's best take so far. So, gentlemen, playoff updates. We're going to give our updates on the series. We'll take a series at a time, each of us, and we'll talk about the games, what we've seen, and what we think is going to happen as the series moves forward. And so I think we should start with Mr. Broadway, since his team is in the big dance this year once again. And I mean, your Rangers up against the Capitals. This should be a much better matchup than against the Devils. But at the same time, we all know what happened last year.
Yeah, and you also have to respect every team you play in the playoffs.
Right. So
never disrespect the team in the playoffs ever.
Right. So Brad, go ahead, break it down. What have you seen so far, and what do you think moving forward between the Rangers and the Caps?
Okay, when the Rangers skate, the Capitals can't keep up with them. The Capitals are slow. You know, if the Rangers just play smart hockey, there's no way they should lose this series. But I'm going to tell you right now, tonight, they got themselves a little carried away. And it's a 4-3 game with 2.5 minutes to go in the game in the third period. So, and you know, the Capitals just pulled the goalie. So it's white knuckles time in Madison Square Garden. If the Rangers win this game, great. They take a 2-0 lead. But just a little word of caution. And I picked the series to be a 6-game series because the Rangers never win in Washington. Never, ever. So that's got to be except if it's Game 7, of course. But
gotcha.
They never win in Washington. It's not with this group. With the old group with Lundqvist and those guys. Yes, this group, no. So do not lose a game at Madison Square Garden, especially tonight.
Right.
They have everything they have nothing to win and everything to lose if they lose this series.
All right.
You don't want to be the laughing stock, so just win this game. But the special teams, the Rangers have scored 2 power play goals tonight. They scored a power play goal on Sunday, and they have a shorthanded goal. So watch for that. You know, the Capitals take stupid penalties, and you know the Rangers are going to score on them. So I think the Rangers are going to be okay in this series. I still think it's going to go 6, though.
All right, then. So Brad believes it'll go 6. Obviously, he would have his Rangers winning in 6, but
they're not going to lose the series. But
right.
I can definitely see some scary moments.
Right. So still 4-3, by the way, in that game between the Caps and the Rangers. Yeah. The Caps got a late goal there with 2:14 left to go.
Yeah, 2:14 of biting your nails time.
You're right. So while Brad bites his nails, John said Leon Draisaitl had a beautiful goal last night. Watching him and McDavid is fun to watch. Hopefully one day before I croak, I'll see hockey like this in Philly. I'll jump in on this one. Obviously, Edmonton and LA is what he's talking about. Last night, Edmonton had their way with LA. It was a real struggle for them to get going. And this is what LA has to do. This is what Edmonton has to do. They just have to speed around, get that offense going, take advantage of their power play because clearly the Kings are having a really hard time shutting down that offense. And if they can just keep it up, Kings are going to have a real, real hard time trying to get into this series. The Kings showed some life there towards the end. It was too little too late by that point. However, that's a positive for the Kings to pull out going into Game 2. Am I changing my pick? I'm still going to go with LA. You want to know why? Because I really want to see the Oilers suffer. I feed off of their misery. So, yes, LA still winning it.
That's like me feeding off Toronto's misery.
Love it.
Too, but that's a different story.
Love it. Yeah, real quick, I don't know what you were just saying, Maddie. Like the one thing, like I have LA winning the series too, but if they want to do it, they have to dig in on the defensive side and they have to protect that goaltender. Otherwise,
they do.
They're going to be heading home early.
Right. I mean, Edmonton, they did everything they were supposed to do. get the offense going, and crush all the hopes and dreams of LA right there on the spot. So, okay, gents, who wants to go next?
Real quick question. Did we see another side of McDavid, too, with the 5 helpers? You know, really creating plays more so than looking to deposit him himself?
I think
Or
we're
is this
seeing
just his normal MO?
I think we're seeing nothing too out of the ordinary from him, but I think we're seeing growth in terms of his captaincy, in terms of his leadership quality, of elevating the play around. Yeah,
He's just
I
such a great player.
definitely believe that.
He really
Outstanding achievement, yeah.
It was. All right, so who wants to go next on a series?
I'll jump in. I'll jump in on Winnipeg and Colorado. I'm very intrigued by this series. Always have been. But here's my what a shootout. It was the complete opposite of what I thought was going to happen in this series. Yeah, 2 pretty solid defensive teams. Winnipeg, I think, has the edge in goaltending by far. I think Connor Hellebuck is the much better goaltender in the series, but offenses went off in both games. I mean, these are 2 teams that can score a lot of goals. Obviously you got Colorado with Rantanen and McKinnon and McCarr and all them guys, and then you on the other side you got Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele. Those guys can really push the envelope for Winnipeg. Expected it to be a low scoring series, and if game 1 is any indication, we're in for a shootout in this series. I believe game 2 comes up after this one, I believe.
I think
So
you're right.
Roughly about 15 minutes, I think they face off or something along those lines. I do have Winnipeg upsetting Colorado. This wasn't the matchup I initially saw for Colorado in the first round, but I think Winnipeg has the better goaltending, and I think that's going to wind up leading them to having more success in this series, especially after that huge momentum win in game 1, coming back and putting up 7 against the Colorado Avalanche. It's going to be a 7-game series, though.
I think Don says it best. Colorado versus the Jets don't care about defense.
No, which is really ironic because they both have they both have pretty good defenses. Like they didn't care. They didn't care the other night. They just were punching each other in the face as far as offense goes. Going shot.
You got to calm it down here tonight. In game 2.
Agreed.
So, breakaway for Florida. And no. Good save for Vazzy. Anyway, so Robbie, what series do you want to grab?
I'm going to go, because this one can be summed up pretty quickly so far, as quickly as I think the series itself will wrap up, and that's the Hurricanes-Islanders. Currently, the Hurricanes up 2-0 with game 3 on Thursday, April 25th, 7:30. I mean, I think this is a case of the Islanders really shot their load just getting to the playoffs, just getting, punching their ticket, because, Freddie Anderson, who we've talked about, not historically a great goaltender, looked like Brodeur making 33 saves as the Hurricanes edged the Islanders in game 1, 3-1. And then the Hurricanes got down quick in this game. Islanders came back with a statement going up 3-0, and they just got overwhelmed from that point. Whether the Hurricanes rallied from 3 down to win game 2, that's a deflator. That's easily a deflator.
2 minutes and 11 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
The Hurricanes.
Right.
The Islanders actually had 3-2 in that game.
3-0 at one point.
I know, but 3-2 with 2 minutes and 11 seconds to go, and you lose 5-3.
Right.
I mean, not only do you give up the lead, but you lose the game, and you don't even lose it in overtime.
Right.
That's a rough one.
The deflator. I mean, they go back home now where they can turn things around, but that's a rough loss. That's a rough loss.
It's tough to recover from that. And by the way, the last time the Hurricanes did it, it was 2006 when they won the Cup. So who knows? Maybe it's prophetic. Who knows?
You said it best, Rob. That's a deflating loss. And if they don't rebound in game 3, I mean, we know how tough the Hurricanes are defensively. I can't see them climbing back in if they go down 3-0. Like that loss is going to hurt.
Oh, you can't go down.
Canes in 5.
Yeah.
So, Brad, is there a series you want to snag as we continue breaking
Sure,
them down?
the Vancouver Canucks and the Preds.
All right.
It's basically you had an Islander Hurricane type of situation with Vancouver, trying to nurse a 2-1 lead in the third period, and then losing 4-2. However, Thatcher Demko is out tonight, and he may be out for the series. That's what I'm reading now. If they lose Thatcher Demko for the series, the Predators could definitely upset the Canucks. Because who's their backup? Casey DeSmith?
I think so.
Correct.
In the
There's a
playoff?
name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, well, I don't think any Vancouver fan wants to hear that either. So, I know the Predators are not exactly your high-scoring hockey team, but this Thatcher Demko injury is something that everybody needs to pay attention to. How badly is he hurt? And
Did he play the full game one?
I think he did.
He did, but apparently
He picked up because they said undisclosed injury, and when it's hushed like that, it's usually pretty severe.
Yeah, they're not saying, they're not even giving you a clue. So, and he
Right.
did play the game. So something happened. Maybe it happened in practice. Who knows? But you know what? That's a major loss. And I mean, if it doesn't catch up with the Preds this round, with the Canucks this round, it could definitely catch up with them next round. But watch out. I mean, don't count your chickens with Vancouver before they hatch, guys.
I mean, I had a feeling that series was going to be close. I don't think it was going to be as much of a slam dunk as some people might assume. Mike is saying Vancouver's beaten Nashville in 6 games, so he still believes in Vancouver on that one. What's up, Greg? And so the next series I'll tag, since Mike brought it up, Vegas and Dallas was great. Yeah, what a crazy game one that was between those two clubs. Vegas, though, stayed one step ahead of Dallas the entire night, which, again, I'm not going to say that that's a sign of bad things for Dallas, because Dallas was still good in that game. It's just they needed a little extra, and they didn't have it. That was the one thing. They just needed a good bounce to go their way. They needed to get that timely goal. It didn't happen. But that doesn't mean it can't happen later on in the series. It still was a close game. Vegas barely walked away with that win. However, though, I'm sure the internet went immediately ablaze the moment Mark Stone scored the opening goal in that game. After everything that happened prior to this, of course he gets the first goal for the Golden Knights in their run.
I was going to say, does Dallas have anybody on LTIR they can pull off real quick?
I don't think so. Maybe Mike Modano. Maybe he's been on LTIR this whole time.
He may have been. He may be. Let's go. Get him out there. Yeah. Everybody else is doing it. Why not?
Maybe they.
I don't know. JB Ben might pull out a shank and really lacerate his spleen.
Oh boy.
By the way, Mike is saying Dallas is 7 against Vegas.
I got Dallas in 7 as well. I actually have Dallas winning it all.
I think Dallas will still come out on top, but if Vegas does walk away with the win, I wouldn't say I'm surprised. I would say, you know what? I'm really not shocked that Vegas wound up pulling this one off.
I picked Vegas to upset them in this series. So,
hey, it's possible. I think it could go either way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I didn't know if I knew Thompson was in goal instead of Aiden Hill, then I would have probably gone the other way and said I like Dallas. So. Just being honest here. But Thompson's in goal and they won, so okay. Yeah, he was pretty darn good last.
Brad, you could fill out more than one bracket on the challenge, brother.
Yes, I know.
That's like the Vegas Golden Knights is cheating.
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay.
Cheating the system.
Yeah, win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat, as per Jesse the Body Ventura.
Right.
Oh, great quote.
I love that pull.
Fantastic.
Mike's saying Ben Bishop comes in a clown car dressed in the North Stars to win Game 7. So
good drop.
Brian, what's the next one you got, brother?
Well, since everybody took the Eastern Conference, I'm going to take the final Eastern Conference team here. I like the Boston-Toronto series. I think we're going to see a barn burner of a series. I think we've already seen a barn burner of a series so far. very back and forth, high scoring, high physicality. This is everything we want between these two teams in a playoff series. Ultimately, I think Boston's going to win it. I just think they're deeper defensively. I think they're deeper in goaltending. I mean, that's been the biggest bugaboo for Toronto for the last, how long has it been since they've won a Stanley Cup? 64 years, something like that. That's how it's. I feel like that's how it's been for 64 years since. But
67 was the last Stanley Cup for them.
Yes.
57 years. Yeah, they took over the Rangers record.
I can't do math. Stop it. You already know this. But still, regardless, I think Boston, they have the edge in a lot of fashions over Toronto. I think the only thing Toronto has over them is the power play. But I think this is going to be another long drawn out series, but ultimately Toronto gets sent home again in round one. Continues the streak of not winning more than 2 rounds ever in their existence.
And still not beating Boston in a playoff series. So keeping that streak alive too. All right then. So Rob, what series are left there for your brother?
I think it's just the one that's playing right now, right? Lightning Panthers?
Mm-hmm.
Or did we cover that?
No, I don't think we did.
I mean, we talk a lot about the game going on right now. As of the moment, is 2-2 in the third period. Florida's up 1-0 in the series. And basically what I got from that game was Carter Verhaeghe taking the next step in his development, scoring a huge goal there in the third period, really just, demonstrating what Florida does. Play good defense, take advantage of mistakes, and capitalize. And they've done it very successfully this season. And we saw that in game 1.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And Mike is saying Tampa and Florida, the best series in recent memory. I mean, it's been amazing tonight. And the last 2 previous meetings, even though Tampa won them, you know what? Florida always looked like they were just missing a little something, and they found it finally. And now it's like, oh boy, it's even now.
And I believe that Verhaeghe goal was on the power play too. So basically, it's going to be which team can stay disciplined enough in this series will come out on top. Yo, newsflash, Captain Obvious. Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
But you know what? I'm glad you brought that up though, Robbie, because here's the thing. Tampa Bay has regressed 5-on-5. They are not as good this season as they have been in the past 5-on-5. A lot of that has been due to injury. A lot of that has been due to the fact they didn't have Vasilevsky to start the season. There's a couple different variables as to why, but we can also say this team's getting older too.
Right.
Their window is closing. It's tough to not say that about this team right now.
There's a reason they bought at the deadline to go get guys like Anthony Duclair. They wanted to inject offense back into the lineup.
Yep. And they have gotten better 5-on-5 through that. But also, this is still one of the most dangerous, most potent power plays in the league, regardless of their 5-on-5. If Florida can stay out of the box, they have a legit shot of ending this in 5 or 6 games.
It's going to be crazy, and if Florida manages to do that, I think, boy, it's hard to argue against Florida after that, because it's just like, man, beating Tampa, beating the big brother of the two, I mean, that's crazy. You get that win. That might be what Florida needs. One thing they were missing from last year was getting a big win over Tampa.
Yeah.
And Boston is definitely going to have a little thorn in their side after what happened last year.
Oh, definitely. If that matchup, if that's the second round matchup, my God, fists will definitely be flying in that series.
Oh yeah,
because Boston didn't forget.
They didn't.
I think that's going to be. I think that's actually the way the bracket's set up. I think that's going to wind up having to be the Eastern Conference Finals.
The Eastern Conference Finals between Florida and Boston.
That would be.
So.
No, that would
look at it again.
That would
be the second, wouldn't it?
Second round.
Unless somebody loses that we don't expect to lose, and I don't think so.
Yeah,
I'll have the bracket up in front of me.
The Rangers lose, and then Florida becomes the first seed, the 1 seed.
I don't know. I'm not looking at the bracket, so
it's all right. Still, though, wherever that series would take place, it would be crazy. By the way, that weird Rabbit 99 says Florida and Dallas Stanley Cup final. What a wild Stanley Cup final that would be.
Sorry, boys. I was on another screen. Right here, yeah, the winner of this series would face the winner of Boston Toronto.
I'm looking at it now.
So, by the way, for an update scoring-wise, the final, the Rangers did beat the Capitals 4-3, so they are 2-0 in the series, heading out
Fred.
for Washington. Yeah, they held
on.
on.
I took a deep breath when they hung on. Washington was all over them in the last minute of the third period, but they couldn't score. Igor made a couple of great, especially right at the end, made an unbelievable save on, I can't remember who it was now. May have been Michael, but there was a pass to Ovechkin, and it went right between his legs, and he was wide open in front of the net.
So that's that. Winnipeg's up 1-0 currently, and on top of that, 2-2 with Tampa and Florida in the third period. So that's your quick update. So we hope you all enjoyed this edition of Flyers Talk A2D. And yeah, we will be covering the playoffs just as much as we'll be covering the Flyers. So stick here every Tuesday night and we'll have plenty to deliver to you. We were brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy, the Dr. Paul Vidal, if you have any aches and pains. And we hope you all enjoy the rest of the playoff games for tonight and the rest of the week. Until we see you next time. Happy Stanley Cup playoffs, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on A2DRadio.com. Peace and love, everyone.
Lindy Ruff returns.